And I got my weekly post. It might be old school, but I'll say it might be old school, but I don't do anything on Facebook. Instagram, I just have kind of reluctantly because, sometimes there's something, one of the kids posts. Twitter, I think I only do if somebody sends me something and it's about one of my kids, then I'll like it or whatever. But, I totally agree on the, LinkedIn from a productive perspective. And I also wonder if it's going to start to expand over a little bit, with some of the kind of personal side, because if I'm posting about one of my kids is doing baseball, that may not be professional per se, but then it's something that I've got an interest in. And then people will kind of, connect with me kind of from that perspective. Then that may be more personal connection then leads to something that is kind of more on the professional side. Do you see that starting to happen?
Yeah, I do, but I think we also have evolved into a place where there's no such thing as work-life balance. I work from home. My kids are here, right? Like the cat's going to roll in any moment. I don't think that we separate the two. So I think it is okay that comes through. I would also say that when people ask me about their profile and they're like, what do you think about it? I'm like, well, it tells me what you do, but it doesn't tell me who you are. And I hire employees and I want to know what's important to you. And so if you change the lens in which you're looking at your profile and you say, who am I, not just what I do, your profile will look more like someone who is, passionate about leadership and that you're a big fan of your son playing baseball at Alabama. And, you really care about solving people's problems. It's not that I have 5 years experience at this and this is how many connections I have. And this is, I follow this company on the platform. So it is going to have that blend. And I think that's important too, because we're humans and we're people and we work with people and we care about people and, we're not just, resumes or CVs. So I think it's okay to have some of that content as well.
Totally. So we could talk all day. The whole LinkedIn platform is amazing, but I'm going to move on. We can maybe do a separate webinar on LinkedIn for sales leaders. But what about your perspectives on how you've seen sales change over the years, certainly with the pandemic as well?
Yeah. So the pandemic ushered in a surge of digital transformation. So there are many companies that didn't really have any tools in their tech stack when the pandemic happened. I think they were trying to move as quickly as they could through that change, and they purchased a ton of tools, not really thinking about how they would work together or how it might drive the outcomes that they needed for their business. And I think that rush to digital transformation created this thing that I call tool fatigue. It's like your sellers have too many tools in their tech stack, and they're toggling between different tools that they don't have mastery in, and they're actually less productive because of the volume of things we've purchased and asked them to use in order to potentially drive this transformation. So in the past, I'll say 18 months, we've seen companies going through what I call the great rationalization, where they're actually looking at their tech stack and they're saying, what is actually delivering the right ROI for our business? And how is this helping drive our goal or outcome? So that's the first bucket. The second is we know that, and this is pre-pandemic, so this has been evolving for quite a while. When I was actually a salesperson in IC carrying a bag 20 years ago, we engaged with our customer in the first mile. So we would inform them of our products and services, and then they would meet with a couple different salespeople, and they would use the information that we shared in order to make the decision. Now, most of the information that buyers need is available to them at their fingertips, right? And so buyers are not engaging with salespeople in the first mile; they're engaging with people in the final mile. So it then points to the fact that relationships really do matter, and we want to ensure that we're meeting that customer when they want to engage with us. So that's that right time concept, and that we're doing the research beforehand so that we can show the customer that we're a subject matter expert in whatever problem they're trying to sell. So it's final mile as opposed to first mile. And I think instead of us going quantity, so 10 years ago, it was all about like, how many prospects can we touch? Can we connect with 100,000 people? Can we send 10,000 emails a day? It's quality now. So it's engaging with the right prospect at the right time and ensuring that we have the right research and relationship and engagement strategy to drive that outcome.
Oh, that's great. I'm getting so caught up here. I forgot to mention. So for those that are watching or listening along, feel free to post any comments, ask any questions. And we got Tucker behind the scenes as always, who will pull those up for us. So feel free. Sorry, I forgot to mention that before. So what about, why do you think top performers still win despite all the change and challenges out there?
Yeah, there are top performers in every company that are still finding a way to win despite the environment that they're currently in. We actually find in studying top performers in our own organization and then in other customers and companies that we work with, that they're spending 10% less time than middle or bottom performers actually selling, right? They're doing more research on the front end and they're more focused on relationship density. So we consider relationship density the volume of contacts that you have in a customer or prospect. And so for me, if I look across my sales organization, for my top performers, they will oftentimes have 9 more connections than a seller who is not performing at their level inside of an organization. And so I think that's a big part of it, is the amount of research and relationships they're investing in, and then obviously using things like buyer intent to engage with those customers when the time is ready.
So is there, if I'm a CRO at a company, or I guess as you look at your team, so forget about the fact that you're at LinkedIn, is there a way that you can actually look and say, what is the relationship density that my different sellers have, and kind of stack rank them?
Yeah, obviously you would want to use Sales Navigator, so that would be something that we could help you with. But I would say if you wanted to do it on a one-on-one basis, I would imagine I would sit down with the top performer and I would say, show me your top prospect or your largest account this year. Now show me how many connections you have in that account. You could see that just on the .com platform. And then it would give you an indication of how successful your reps have been in investing in those relationships in the past year. I think you could probably also do it in your CRM, but I tend to not advise people on CRMs, as that is not, something I'm currently a subject matter expert on.
Yeah, but and I'm not just saying this because you're on, but LinkedIn, it's kind of I find doing more and more, instead of send people emails, I'll do in-mails. So for example, you and I met last fall, and that we can see the back and forth there. If I otherwise needed to go find that, I'd have to go into my Sense and go figure out, which is just an extra step. And so more and more I find myself now, instead of texting or emailing, I actually just go to LinkedIn and do an email that way. And it's kind of, then you've got your own, almost like I've got my own file on you, because that keeps track of all the correspondences that we have, which is really cool. So then if you're a sales leader, then you can kind of, as you're sitting down, you can say, okay, what is your back and forth, and you can tell, are those real relations? Is it just a connection, or are you actually having some interaction, engaging, right?
Yep, absolutely. I would also say that, I get north of 300 emails a day. So it's more of a quantity than a quality game, right? And right. So my in-mail, my LinkedIn space is like a sacred space for me. So I know what I'm receiving is high quality, because it's most likely coming from someone that I've connected to and have met, right? And so it's just a different experience. I enjoy actually looking at my in-mail. I think sometimes I get my email, I'm like, it's not always high quality.
Yeah, totally. And I'm amazed at some of the, for lack of better words, is crappy sellers. I mean, people would be, soliciting. I'm like, can you really be that stupid? And then the things that are AI, and just, it's like, it's totally a waste of time. But anyway, all right. Yeah. What about, talk about deep sales versus shallow selling?
Yeah, I mentioned this briefly, but shallow selling is exactly that spam cannon methodology. It's all about not doing research, loading a book of contacts, a list of contacts into your, email prospecting tool and shooting out that spam cannon with no customization, no focus on building a relationship, trying to see, who opens up that email, and then calling them every day for the next 7, to 10 days. We know that shallow selling doesn't work. It's why so many sellers are struggling that are still managed to a quantity, not quality metric. Deep sales is investing in that relationship, doing research ahead of time. And what it really leads to is improving the quality and outcomes for all of your sellers. So we say that when you take your top performers' best habits and you replicate them down your stack, you are more likely to see an uplift in productivity and success across your entire organization than just doing this like high volume spam cannon play. So that would be my elevator pitch on shallow sales versus deep sales, which is really replication of top performer best habits, including but not limited to research, relationships, and ensuring you're engaging with your customer at the right time.
Yeah, you could call it a top performer sales versus bad performer, bad sales there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Randy, you had asked me if there was any sales methodology that I, was really attached to, or anything that I had read recently that was really exciting. And my answer is that I think many organizations find this sales methodology that they love. They hire the author, they bring them in, they do like a 6-week training, and they don't see their performance curve improve at all. My opinion is that if you were just to take your top performers and understand what their behaviors are and create your own playbook from what your top performers are doing and replicate that down into your organization, you would be more likely to improve the performance curve, which is essentially deep sales. Because we know your top performers are doing more research. We know that they're selling less, and we know that they're not, loading a spam cannon and sending out 1,000 emails a day.
Yeah, I tell you, every Zoom or call or meeting I have, I take 10 minutes beforehand. I'll always go through, and with the mutual connections, we'll then write down. Again, I'm old school, writing my notebook, but kind of write down who do I know well, so that way then if I'm talking with the other person, then hey, here's the ones I know well, and of those they'll know a couple, and that helps to kind of break the ice immediately, because then you have the common ground with kind of whoever that is. Then likewise seeing what is the person posted or commented on, and then there's things that could be mutual interest. So back in the old days when you're face to face in the office, I'd say, oh look, you've got that book, and I don't know, is that a little statue thing of a cat, kind of something like that. It's harder to do because you're not in somebody's office, so it's a way you can kind of break bread right away, which I think is fantastic. So works out really cool. What about trends that you're seeing on the horizon or in the future for sales?
Yeah, I think there's a lot. I mean, if unless you've been on vacation and you haven't opened a newspaper or your phone, you probably have been hearing folks talking about AI. LinkedIn Learning currently has 200 courses on AI, and as we continue to evolve, so will tools. And so I think being aware of what's on the horizon. I think the second piece, and I actually think about this a lot, which is how are we helping our customers solve problems, right? I think it's when I first started selling, I remember I went through spin selling, situation, problem, implication, need, right? And it was a lot of, the feature solution selling as opposed to actually helping our customers solve their bigger problems. And so I think as people will be doing, more research on the front end, we need to come in with a more holistic approach to our customers. And then I would say that, and this isn't a new trend. I've been talking about it all day, but relationships really do matter. And your best customer is someone else's best prospect. If you're not investing in that relationship, not just with that individual, but with the entire company, you're going to miss the opportunity to maintain that customer in your book of business.
Totally. I had somebody last week tell me they thought they were getting a deal done with a certain prospect, and all of a sudden they saw the prospect had posted something that they were at a kind of user group gathering of their competitor. So they kind of had to step on the gas there. What about the future kind of, I don't know what you're allowed to say, but kind of the roadmap for LinkedIn? Obviously fantastic now, but kind of go out a few years, I know there's, huge focus on, how can you really, enable, sellers and leaders to be as productive as possible? What's coming down the road?
Yeah, I probably can't take you through a full product roadmap, but I'll go back to what I said in the beginning of our conversation, which is if you're solely using LinkedIn as an opportunity to find a new role or connect with an employee, hire a candidate, you're missing half the value of what we're delivering. And so for me, ensuring that our customers understand that their profiles shouldn't just look like that they're someone who's looking for a job, but that they actually are demonstrating and presenting themselves as a subject matter expert in whatever industry they're in. And so think about LinkedIn in the future as more of a marketplace in which we're bringing buyers and sellers together, as opposed to just an ecosystem where we're bringing talent and hiring managers together. The community exists today on the platform, but people aren't engaging in that way. And so imagine tools that will allow buyers and sellers to connect more easily and to find that subject matter expert that they're looking for that can help them solve their biggest problem.
Awesome. Kind of like a specific targeted Google search for something that you're looking to buy or sell. And then you get the connection with not just the company, but then, whatever person at that company.
Yep.
Very cool.
Exactly.
All right. We have a question from Kevin. Thank you, Kevin. He asks or says, deep selling is important. Totally. Research is important. Absolutely. Any tips on how to cut through the clutter of data and hone in on those with higher buyer intent?
Yeah. There's a lot of ways I can answer this question. I'll take two lenses. First, buyer intent data inside of Sales Navigator is different than buyer intent data that you would get from other organizations, meaning our data is based on first party. So we're not, scraping the internet to see what others are looking for or searching. An example I'll give you is when I moved from Chicago to Tennessee, I was looking for storage for my furniture because my home was being built and it wasn't done yet. And I started getting emails about storage for LinkedIn. Did LinkedIn need, storage for like cloud storage? And I laughed because I was like, that is obviously something, scraping and saying Kimberly is interested in storage and she works at IT. So it must be that we're looking for storage. So not all buyer intent is created equal is the first thing I'll say in the buyer intent piece. So ours is coming from first party data. So we know who is searching, where they work, and what they're searching for, and how they're engaging in the platform in order to give us those signals. And so for me, that would be the first part, is like understanding how the data is sourced and what the quality is of that will help you reduce the likelihood of getting false signals. Data in general, and I have an amazing sales operations and biz ops partners and teams that help with us. There's a lot of information out there, but I think the best thing you can do is identify who your best customers are and then look at the information that is going to help you understand what's like for like. So if I see a specific industry profile, a specific customer size, if I see their spend, their growth rate, and I see that is mirroring the top 25% of my customers who are receiving the most value, that is a strong signal for me to replicate that customer as a prospect. I had a conversation with a customer last week, and they have really broad territories. Their sellers can pretty much sell anyone in the US. So they're like, 10 million available small businesses in the US are our prospects. And I'm like, wow, your sellers must be really frustrated. Like they're probably calling and hearing no a lot. What if instead of giving them unlimited prospects, you were to say, these are our customers who are seeing the most value. This is a whole set of customers that look and feel like them. Why don't we try them first? Because we know that they will be more likely to see ROI. And so I'm fortunate that I have a team that helps me do it. But I think understanding what you're trying to accomplish, beginning with the end in mind, right? And then working backwards to understand what data creates a like for like opportunity.
Awesome. Great. Well, Kevin, thanks. And a reminder, any others watching or listening, feel free to make any comments or ask any questions for sure. So our title topic is or was selling in economic uncertainty. I think we've touched on most of the main points there. And anything else that you would add?
Yeah, I would just say that, unwelcome outreach impacts our brand, not just as sellers and sales professionals, but also our company's brand. And so, we did the same thing, 30, 40 years ago with telemarketing. And then all of a sudden people, there was telemarketing laws in place and people started getting, caller ID. It's like, right. I don't want to do that again. and ruin the brand of sellers. And so I would say do research. You mentioned it earlier, Randy, like create warm connection points before you engage, and really ensure that you're investing in meaningful relationships. Like that's what LinkedIn is all about.